आज एक फर्स्ट सेशन के बाद सेकंड सेशन में एक वर्क जो हमने स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के लिए किया था उसको शेयर करेंगे।
Analysis, and one of the tremendous work done by Professor Kavadia, and he will tell you how to develop the index as well through his own work. So these are the three things we are going to understand. First, multiple regression analysis. Second, the extension of multiple regression analysis. And third, the creation of an index, devolution index. So I request Dr. Kavadia to come and take the session, sir.
तो वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग। आज तीसरा है। एक ही व्यक्ति को दिन पर देखना ये अच्छा हुआ उन्होंने कि मॉर्निंग आवर्स में कोई और रहेगा और आफ्टरनून में कोई और रहेगा, अदरवाइज मार्जिनल ड्रॉप डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी वर्क्स। ठीक है, आ रही आवाज नहीं आ रही? आ रही? So yesterday so far what we did that I tried to give the concept that what is the econometrics, how econometrics is different from statistics and mathematical economics, and then what is regression analysis and how to interpret the result of the regression and how to estimate the regression. All that we did with respect to simple linear regression model. Now today we will discuss multiple linear regression model, and we will take one example that how the results of the multiple regression analysis can be interpreted. So multiple linear regression means we have a dependent variable yt is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x2 t plus beta 3 x3t plus beta 4 x4t plus so and so ut. Means there is only one dependent variable. In all regression analysis, dependent variable is one, but independent variable may be one or more than one. If it is more than one, then that is known as multiple regression model. Linear or not linear, that depends on what is the nature of relationship between the dependent variable and independent. This is a functional relationship, and if you assume that functional relationship is linear one, then that model will be treated as linear regression model. That model will be treated as multiple linear regression model. Nature of relation. If it is not, and what is the meaning of linearity? What is the meaning of linearity? In mathematics, linear means one-to-one relationship. Or you can say when incremental is constant, it is linear relation. Increment is constant, not the rate of increment. Increment is constant, then that is the linear relationship. And in economics, what is the meaning of linearity? In economics, linearity means constant returns to scale. In economics, linearity means constant return to scale. So here we are assuming that the relationship between these independent variables and this dependent variable is linear one. And if it is linear one, then the model is written like this. Now, what is the meaning of beta 2? Beta 2 is the partial impact of x2 on y. Partial impact. Keeping other variable constant means if you think that y is influenced by many variables, and if you keep other variable constant, then y will change with respect to x2 by how much? b2 times. Per unit change in y with respect to x2 is equal to b2. And similarly others. The condition is in multiple regression condition, when we analyze the impact of X2 on Y, we assume that there is no change in X3, there is no change in X4. If there are simultaneously change, then we have to work out the total change, and that will be a different task. Here we are analyzing that these are all known as partial regression coefficient. They are known as partial regression coefficient. Now, here is the U. The first assumption, what are the assumptions about U? Classical linear regression model, assumptions about the error term. This is very important. And first assumption is that expected value of the U is 0. So there will be some positive U's, there will be some negative U's, and on the whole, the expected value of the U is equal to 0. Second assumption is that expected value of ut square is equal to sigma u square, a constant. A constant. And this is known as homoscedasticity. Homoscedasticity. Variance is called. And what is the meaning of the variance? The spread of the error term is same. There are different U's, but their spread is same. Peak is same, spread is same. If some U is like this and some U is like this, we will say that the spread is not same, and therefore the property is not homoscedastic. That problem is known as heteroscedastic. And tomorrow we will discuss, if we violate this assumption, what will be the implication on the estimation, that we will discuss later on. Next one is Uy Uj is equal to 0, means two error terms are completely independent. The basic thing what we are assuming that U is completely random. We are not in a position to predict the value of U, and if we are not able to predict the value of U, then there is no question of the correlation between the two different U's. Correlation is equal. We are not using word correlation. What we are using word? Autocorrelation. Why autocorrelation? Correlation within the same variable. Ui and uj, both are the error term. So we are looking the correlation within the same variable, and that's why it is known as autocorrelation. 1, 2, 3. Fourth assumption is that the distribution of U is distributed like normal distribution. Normal distribution. Though it will not affect the estimation part, whether you assume normal or not. But normal is required when you want to conduct the test of the significance, or when you want to conduct the hypothesis testing, you have to assume that U is normally distributed. If you are not able to assume normally distributed, you will not be able to conduct the test, statistical test. That's why we are. And one more assumption. These are all simple classical linear regression assumptions. Two more assumptions. The expected value of U with respect to different values of X is equal to 0. Means U doesn't have any correlation with the independent variable. If there is a correlation between the independent variable and the error term, then the error term and that independent variable will jointly affect this one. And we will not be isolate the impact of each independent variable. So what we are assuming that U is completely random and X is not random. X is a fixed variable. So therefore there is no chance of having correlation between these two. So we are assuming that all U's are independent of the X. And sixth assumption, which is in addition to these are all assumptions of the classical linear simple regression model. But in multiple, we are assuming one more relation, and the correlation between X2 and X3 should not be very high. They should be independent. The correlation between this between X2 and X3 should be 0. But it's very difficult to get 0 correlation between two independent variables. For example, suppose you want to estimate the consumption function and you think that income and asset is more important for deciding, then conduct a survey of household, you will find there is a strong correlation between income and asset. Two independent variable, correlation will be not there. So that problem is known as multicollinearity. Multicollinearity. So if there is a poor correlation, it will not affect the estimation. But if the correlation is very high, then it will affect the estimation process. Tomorrow when we will drop the one by one assumption, we will see what are the consequences if there is a multicollinearity between the two variables that we will discuss tomorrow. So these are the assumptions. And these are the assumptions, and if you have the model follows this particular assumption, then the OLS estimates of this model will be BLUE. So estimates are good or not, that all depends whether you follow this particular pattern or not. And we have only this method of estimation. Means we don't have choice. We have the compulsion that your model formation should be such that it follows all these assumptions of that. So one very interesting story, एक वैद्य थे जो केवल एक डिजीज का इलाज जानते थे और वो डिजीज थी अगर किसी को निमोनिया हो जाए तो वो ठीक कर देते। एक राजा के पास जब ये समाचार गया तो राजा ने कहा ऐसा कैसे वैद्य हो सकता है जो केवल एक बीमारी का इलाज करे। वैद्य है तो सब बीमारी का इलाज करना चाहिए, उसको कोई और प्रॉब्लम थी और वो वैद्य के पास गया कि मेरा इलाज कीजिए, तो वैद्य ने कहा कि मैं तो केवल एक बीमारी का इलाज करता। तो डॉक्टर ने कहा चलो ठीक, राजा ने कहा चलो ठीक है, मुझे वो तरीका बताओ जिससे निमोनिया हो जाए। तुम निमोनिया का ट्रीटमेंट करोगे तो मुझे वो तरीका बताओ कि निमोनिया हो जाए। उसने कहा ये बात ठीक है, मैं तुमको तरीका भी बताता हूँ निमोनिया होने का, लेकिन उस प्रोसेस में तुम अगर तुरंत सुधार गए तो मेरा कोई फॉल्ट नहीं है। तो उसने कहा क्या करना है कि जाओ नदी के किनारे रेत पे ठंडे ठंडे पानी से नहाना और रेत पे सो जाना, निमोनिया हो जाएगा, और निमोनिया हो जाए तो मेरे पास आना, मैं 100% क्योर कर लूंगा। बस ओएलएस एस्टिमेशन भी यही कहानी कहता है कि आई कैन गिव वंडरफुल एस्टिमेशन प्रोवाइडेड यू फॉलो दीज assumptions। और इस assumption को फॉलो करने का और कोई लॉजिक नहीं है, ओनली योर थ्योरी और लॉजिक योर लॉजिक। यू मस्ट हैव अ वेरी साउंड नॉलेज कि भाई ये चीज है perfect, the theory saying that this is the perfect model, and if this is a perfect model then definitely it will follow certain assumptions. These assumptions, use OLS, you will get best linear unbiased। तो पूरी की पूरी जो इकोनोमेट्रिक्स की कवायद है उसकी जो ब्यूटिफिकेशन है, that all depends on your sound knowledge of economics। बिना इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़े इकोनोमेट्रिक्स नहीं लागू कर सकते, ये याद रखिएगा। So these are the assumptions, and tomorrow there are sessions where we will drop one by one assumption and what will be the consequences that we will see tomorrow. And if we drop these assumptions, then what are the consequences, and then what are the remedial measures that we will discuss tomorrow. Today, our aim is to estimate this one, and then we will take one example for interpretation of the result. Calculation part, these people will do when they will do the exercise on the software. So what I'm doing, that we want to estimate the value of y. That is the whole aim. Aim of the regression is to get the estimated value of the dependent variable, and for that suppose beta 1 cap is the estimated value, beta 2 cap x2t plus beta 3 cap x3t, and so on. There are many variables. Here I am restricting two independent variables. Here I am restricting two independent variables. So what will be the situation? Beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, they are known as OLS estimates if it minimizes summation E square with respect to beta 1, beta 2 and beta 3. Only condition for this square is that get the value of E square, and that E square, sum of E square should be minimum with respect to what? With respect to these three parameters. So, and what is E? E is equal to yt minus yt cap. Difference between actual value and estimated value is known as E. Or if you square it, ET. Why I am writing ET? Because I am assuming that T is going from 1 to N, and N is the size of the sample. So there are E1, E2, E3, E4 and so on. Square both the sides, summation and summation. So what is the requirement of OLS? This E square should be minimum. That is, our estimated value coincides with the actual value. जितनी ज्यादा एक्चुअल वैल्यू के नजदीक होगी उतना अच्छा एस्टिमेट होगा और नजदीक लाने के लिए क्या करना है वी हैव टू मिनिमाइज दिस सम ऑफ एट स्क्वायर और मिनिमाइज करना मतलब इसको डिफरेंशिएट करना है इसके तीनों के रेस्पेक्ट में और फर्स्ट ऑर्डर डिफरेंशिएशन को जीरो करें तो वी विल गेट थ्री नॉर्मल इक्वेशन आई एम डायरेक्टली राइटिंग थ्री नॉर्मल इक्वेशन फ्रॉम विच वी कैन गेट द वैल्यू ऑफ बीटा 1 बीटा 2 बीटा और ये नॉर्मल इक्वेशन बहुत आसान है सबसे पहले पुट समेशन yt is equal to summation b1 f of course estimated value है b2 summation x2t plus b3 f summation x3t केवल समेशन का निशान लगा दीजिए इस पहली इक्वेशन में that will become your first normal equation. Second, this y multiplies the throughout equation by x2t. Multiply throughout by x2 and then put the summation. So beta 1 cap summation x2t plus beta 2 cap summation x2t square plus beta 3 cap summation x2t x3t. अगर t बार बार लिखने में डिफिकल्टी है तो राइट डाउन जस्ट x2 x3 दैट विल डू द वर्क. तो पहला इक्वेशन तो क्या किया केवल समेशन लगाया दूसरे इक्वेशन में हमने क्या किया x2 से मल्टीप्लाई किया. Here I have not used x1. Here I have not used x1 as a variable. Why? Just कि ये बीटा 2 और x2 हो जाए ये बीटा 1 है without any variable. ये x2 the coefficient of x2 बीटा 3 is the coefficient of x3. केवल थोड़ा सा सिंक्रोनाइज करने के लिए I have dropped the idea of x1. Third normal equation, multiply throughout by x3t and put summation. Beta 1 cap summation x3t plus beta 2 cap summation x2t x3t plus beta 3 cap summation x3t square. कितने अननोन है हमारे पास बीटा 1 cap, beta 2 cap and beta 3 cap. These are the three unknown. And in order to get the value, unique value of three unknown, how many equations we need? We need three equations. So these are the three equations. And these equations are derived on the basis of minimization of t square with respect to beta 1 cap, beta 2 cap, beta 3 cap. Means we want such values of beta 2, beta 3, beta 1 which minimizes sum of square, and if you differentiate this with respect to these three, you will get these three normal equations. So what is summation B1? What is summation B1? B1 is constant, and you are summing B1 a constant number n times. It will become n times B1. It will become n times B1. So I am rewriting this equation. Summation y is equal to n times B1 k plus B2 cap summation x2t plus B3 cap summation x3t. And if you divide whole by n, whole by n, whole by n, and what you will get? Y bar is equal to beta 1 cap plus beta 2 cap x bar, x2 bar plus beta 3 cap x3 bar. Simple first equation, or from this you can work out that the beta 1 cap will be equal to y bar minus beta 2 cap x2 bar minus beta 3 cap x3 bar. This is the first value of beta 1. But in order to get beta 1, you must know first how to calculate beta 2 and beta 3. Now, in order to calculate the value of beta 2 and beta 3, the value of beta 2 cap will be equal to, just I'm writing the equations, summation x to y multiplied by summation x3 square minus summation y summation x3y summation x1 x2 x3 all divided by summation x2 square summation x3 square minus summation x2 x3 whole. The all small letter. Small letter means the x2 is equal to x2 capital minus x2 bar. Small y is equal to what? Capital Y minus y bar. Means we are taking deviation from actual math. So these values are in the deviation form. These are in the actual one, but here I am converted them in the deviation form. Otherwise, the formula will be very big. And then we want beta 3 cap. Beta 3 cap will be what? Very similar. This is x2y, make it x3y. This is x3 square, make it x2 square minus x2y summation x2 x3 divided by the same denominator. Denominator is same. So, three normal equation. If you solve these three normal equations, you will get the values of beta 2, beta 3. Substitute beta 2, beta 3 here, you will get beta 1. The first part of any exercise is to estimate the value of beta 2, beta 3, beta 1. Then we want the values of R square directly, coefficient of determination. Now, simple regulation R square is nothing but square of the correlation. But here it is not the square of the correlation, it is different. So, coefficient of determination and the formula for the coefficient of determination is equal to beta 2 cap summation x x to y. क्या हो गया? Okay. Y2x plus beta 3 cap summation y x3y divided by summation y square. Yani substitute the value of beta 2, beta 3 here, x2y plus x3y divided by summation y square. This is nothing but the explained sum of square. This is nothing but total sum of square. The ratio of the explained sum of square divided by total sum of square is equal to r square. This portion is explained by x2, this portion is explained by x3. So this is the total explained sum of square divided by this one. Now in order to work out the standard error of these coefficients, we want sigma u square. Means the variance of the disturbance term. And variance of the disturbance term is equal to summation E square divided by n minus k. K means 3 here. How many variables are there? Y, x2, x3. 3 variables. So n minus 3. Yesterday we did n minus 2. Today we are using n minus 3 because now we have 3 variables. Now summation is square. And what is the meaning of the summation is square? Summation y minus yk square divided by n minus 3. So one way is that estimate the actual value of y, estimate the value of y, get the difference, square it and total. The another very simple way is 1 minus r square multiplied by summation y square divided by n minus 3. R square is explained. What is unexplained? यानी हमें ये क्या चाहिए था? RSS. Residual sum of square minus m by 3. And residual कहाँ से आ जाएगा? Total is 1 minus r square which is explained. किसका? Out of the y square. So this portion is known as residual sum of square divided by n minus 3. You will get sigma u square. You will get sigma u square. And after sigma u square, we want the standard error of beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. So now the standard error. So variance of beta 2 cap is equal to sigma u square summation x3 square divided by summation x2 square summation x3 square minus summation x2 x3 whole square. Throughout denominator is same. Whether you calculate beta 2, whether you calculate beta 3 or whether you calculate standard error or variance. So once you are calculating the denominator, you can just replace. And what about the variance of beta 3? Is equal to sigma u square summation x2 square with the same denominator. With the same denominator. So now what will be your data sheet? Your data sheet will be y, your data sheet will be x2, your data will be x3 and so on. So first of all, what you should do? You should work out the summation y, summation x2, summation x3. Then work out x2y, then work out x3y, then work out x2 square, then x3 square, y square, and one more column that is summation x2, x3. Without working out the deviation, just do the calculation with the help of actual observation. So y is actual, x2 is actual, x3 is actual. So first of all, multiply this cross product, another cross product, 2 columns. Then the square of this, square of this, square of this, 3 columns. And then we want the cross product between x2 and x. And when you have this one, you can directly convert them into deviation without working out the deviation part. For example, suppose you want x to y, summation x to y, deviation form. So what will be summation capital X to y minus n times x to bar y bar. You can easily convert them. Similarly, suppose you want x3y. What will be the value of x3y? x3y minus n times x3 bar y bar. Suppose you want summation y square, then capital Y square minus n times y bar whole. Actual calculation can be easily converted into deviation form, and if you do this part, your application part will be simpler. Otherwise, the formula will be very lengthy. Similarly, summation x2 x3 capital X2 x3 minus n times x2 bar x3 bar, and so on. So this is your spreadsheet, and really if you want to learn econometrics logically, use first Excel sheet and do the calculation on Excel sheet. You will learn the each and every step of calculation. If you directly use SPSS or Stata, you will not be able to use the step-to-step calculation of this one. तो हमारे समय में तो था नहीं, उस समय कोई सॉफ्टवेयर, तो हम लोग बैठ के कैलकुलेटर लेके ऐसा ही कैलकुलेशन किया करते थे और खूब कैलकुलेशन की. नए नए थे इकोनॉमेट्रिक्स में, कोई था नहीं. मध्य प्रदेश में आई वाज द फर्स्ट पर्सन टू इंट्रोड्यूस द स्पेशलाइजेशन ऑफ in Jabalpur University. We first introduced, and then when I shifted to Indore, first person to introduce the econometrics as the optional paper in MA. And then we started one program, Master in Business Economics. There we introduced econometrics as a compulsory paper for all management. And not only this, we introduced one more very important paper, and that is demand forecasting. How to use different techniques of forecasting so that you can predict what will be the demand and so on. So we made that program very, very innovative and very quantitative in nature. पर उस समय क्योंकि कोई सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं था तो सब कैलकुलेशन एक्सेल शीट पे ही करते थे. Okay, so this, any doubt about the formula or the concept? Now I am taking one example to illustrate all that process. So कोई, is there any issue? नहीं है. क्लास बहुत अच्छी है यार. And if you have two independent, these are the equations. If you have three independent, how many equations? Four normal equations, four parameters. And as your independent variable increases, the process becomes very lengthy. So we can convert that entire process into matrix form so that we can give a simple presentation. So matrix form means when you have the beta cap matrix is equal to X transpose X multiplied by X transpose Y. X is a matrix of independent variable, and then transpose it multiplied by X. I am not doing the all because I know that there are many persons who are not of mathematics background, but just a simplification. If your number of variable increase, the process of estimation becomes very lengthy. So we can use matrix analysis, and through matrix analysis, we can work out X transpose X inverse X transpose Y. So X transpose X that then invert it, X transpose Y, that will be the matrix of beta if there are many variables. Now, from Damodar Gujarati, I took one example just to illustrate what I'm assuming that CM means not the chief minister. CM means child mortality rate. Child mortality rate depends on what parameter? Suppose you have to develop a model and you want to explain what is the reason for mortality rate among the child. What are the possible variables which can affect the mortality of child? बताएं. गरीब लोगों में ज्यादा मोर्टालिटी होती है और जो संपन्न है इसका मतलब व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट पर कैपिटा जीएनपी. अगर हम चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी रेट एक फैमिली के रेस्पेक्ट में तो नहीं निकालेंगे, हम पूरा स्टेट के रेस्पेक्ट में निकालेंगे कि पूरे देश में या पूरे एक स्टेट में या एक कम्युनिटी में एक रीजन में मोर्टालिटी रेट कितनी है. तो उसके लिए पहला पैरामीटर जो एक्सप्लेन कर सकता है वो क्या हो सकता है? पर कैपिटा जीएनपी. What is the other variable which is most important in explaining the child mortality rate? Wow, wonderful. And what to write for that? Mother's education के लिए क्या लेना चाहिए पैरामीटर? Female literacy rate, FLR. और ये दो है, and you can also add some more depending on your process of model building and the availability of data. Sometimes we are stuck with the availability of data. So currently I am using only two variables, per capita income and literacy rate of the female, not of the male. And this is child mortality rate. Child mortality rate, okay? Now, one you can say that why you are taking two variables, first regress child mortality rate on per capita GNP and then child mortality rate on female literacy rate. Why you are going for multiple regression model? It is better to go for simple linear regression model where first regress child mortality rate on this one and then child mortality rate on literacy rate. Now tell me, in order to estimate such things, you need cross-section data or time series. टाइम सीरीज डेटा में तो क्या होगा कि आपको एक साल में ये डेटा मिलेगा, पर कैपिटा इनकम मिलेगी, लिटरेसी रेट मिलेगी, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 10 साल के डेटा हैं, 20 साल के डेटा हैं. और फिर भारत जैसे देश में तो 10 साल में एक बार सेंसस होती है तो डिकेडल इंफॉर्मेशन आएगी. तो इट इज बेटर टू यूज क्रॉस सेक्शन डेटा. और क्रॉस सेक्शन डेटा का मतलब क्या है कि हम अलग अलग स्टेट्स लेंगे और हर स्टेट का चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी रेट कब निकालेंगे? 2021. चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी रेट ऑफ 2021 अलग अलग स्टेट एंड देन पर कैपिटा इनकम एंड देन फीमेल लिटरेसी रेट. और ज्यादा रिगरस एनालिसिस करनी हो तो हम क्या करेंगे? 10 साल के डेटा लेंगे, पैनल डेटा जिसका आज ये यूज करेंगे और क्रॉस सेक्शन ऑफ टाइम सीरीज को पूल करके एक स्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट करेंगे. क्योंकि इकोनॉमेट्रिक एस्टिमेशन डिपेंड्स ऑन हाउ मच डिग्रीज ऑफ फ्रीडम यू हैव. And degrees of freedom means bigger the size of the sample, better is the degrees of freedom. Yeah, and now if you regress just on this one simple linear regression, what I am doing, I am regressing it on per capita income. Yeah, per capita income, then this is 157.424 minus 0.0114 per capita GN, and this is the 0.0032, and R square is equal to 0.166. Simple linear regression model assuming that the child mortality is influenced by per capita GNP, और ये estimate किया हमने, तो child mortality rate is equal to this much. और ये मॉडल कितना एक्सप्लेन कर पा रहा है? Only 16.6% variation in child mortality rate is explained by GNP. Or this is the coefficient of GNP and this is the standard error. You can test the null hypothesis. This divide by this, you will get t value, and definitely you will find that the t value is very high, therefore it is highly significant. Highly significant means the GNP, per capita GNP, is a very important variable in influencing child mortality rate. और coefficient कौन सा है? नेगेटिव है या पॉजिटिव है? क्या implication है नेगेटिव का? More the GNP, lesser is the child mortality. Inverse relationship, opposite direction. And if your GNP, per capita GNP is less, the child mortality rate is bound to be more. The second, then we did child mortality rate as a function of female literacy rate, and if you do that part, 263.86 minus 2.3905 0.2133, and R square is equal to 0.669. Again, the coefficient of female literacy rate, FLR. Coefficient of female literacy rate is negative. What is the meaning? More the female literacy rate, less is the child mortality rate. Or standard error is also very low. If you work out, the T ratio will be very high. So you can say that impact is not only negative but highly significant. Impact is not only negative but highly significant. And this explains means female literacy rate explain around 66.95% variation in child mortality, while per capita income is able to explain only 16%. Clear? Which is more important? Literacy rate is more important in order to control. तो भारत में अगर चाइल्ड मोर्टालिटी रेट कंट्रोल करना है तो क्या सजेस्ट करेंगे कि आप तो सब महिलाओं को पढ़ा दें, इनकी एजुकेशन दे दीजिए, इनको लिटरेट कर दीजिए, नो नीड टू गिव एनी बेनिफिट, कुछ बोनस देने की जरूरत नहीं है, कुछ मुफ्त में बांटने की जरूरत नहीं है, केवल आप इनको पढ़ा दीजिएगा. और ऐसा ही जब भारत में ये कम्युनल राइट्स होते हैं तो उस समय कई सारे इश्यूज आते हैं, और अगर आप देखें दोज हु आर लिटरेट मुस्लिम, their behavior is altogether different than the illiterate one. तो इसका मतलब बेसिक प्रॉब्लम इज नॉट द कम्युनिटी, इट इज द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ illiteracy among the minorities. अगर सरकार इनको पढ़ा दे प्रॉपरली तो सब चीजें प्रॉपर हो जाएगी, स्मूथ हो जाएगी. अब अगर इन दोनों को, we know that both are important variable and still we are doing simple linear regression, then we are creating a problem of specification bias. If you know that child mortality rate depends on two variables, but you are ignoring one of them variable, you are causing biasness in the estimate. And that bias is known as specification bias. And this specification bias may be because you are ignoring some variable, maybe because you are taking wrong assumption about the relationship between these two, linear है तो non-linear और हम linear ले रहे हैं, तब भी there will be a specification bias. What is the meaning of the specification bias? If you ignore this variable, then the estimate of this will become biased. It is not unbiased. जबकि हमारा ब्लू क्या कहता है कि हमें अनबायस्ड चाहिए. तो अनबायस्ड के लिए मॉडल में इफ यू थिंक दैट the child mortality rate depends on two variables, then you have to do multiple regression model, not the simple one. And if you do the multiple, the answer will be like this. Child mortality rate is equal to 263.64 minus 0.0056 per capita GMP minus 2.2316 female literacy rate, standard error 0.0019, and R square is equal to 0.7077. The values just below the coefficient, they are known as standard error of the coefficient. जो variance हमने निकाला उसका square root निकालेंगे, so that will be, and this is a standard format whenever you go to any article, and if there is a regression analysis, this is the sequence of writing that the coefficient, and just below coefficient there is a standard error. And just on the basis of the ratio between two, you can infer whether it is a significant or not. If this ratio is more than 3, then you are 100% sure that the coefficient is significant. Otherwise, insignificant. Now, two important inferences. When you add one more variable, your R square is bound to increase. R square, pehle 0.166, 0.66, and then it is 0.7077. R square. So here R square is just increasing because the two variables are important. Yeah, just we are adding one more variable, therefore the R square is increasing. So in order to know this part, we have to work out R bar square, corrected value of the R square. 1 minus R square multiplied by n minus 1 divided by n minus k. Corrected value of means अगर आपने ज़्यादा variable include किया means you are doing some penalty. So this factor is nothing but penalty factor. Add one more variable, slightly, definitely R square will increase, but whether it is useful or not, that we can work out on the basis of corrected R square. And one more terminology is known as modified R square or adjusted R square. Adjusted against the number of variable, and that adjusted R square is equal to 1 minus n by k. This is penalty factor multiplied by R square. 1 minus n by k multiplied by R square. This is known as modified R square. Why we are modifying? Because we are adding some more variable, so whether it is really improving or not, and this one. Very interesting in econometrics. Go to that Gujarati book is a wonderful book. Or the practical examples, econometrics through example. He has a huge database and collected the results of many authors. And then finally conclude, don't bother about the R square. It doesn't mean that model is not good. If this particular variable is significant, model is important. What is important is whether the coefficients are significant. If R square is very high and you are not of the coefficient square is whether coefficients are. But if your aim is prediction, कोई लेना देना नहीं है, करना है 10 साल बाद क्या होना चाहिए, ये मॉडल जिसका आर स्क्वायर बहुत अधिक हो तो क्या होता है आपका प्रिडिक्शन, अगर आपने लिटरेसी रेट बढ़ा दी, कितनी पर कैपिटा तुम बढ़ा दी तो क्या prediction are is important, R square is important. When you do the probability extract on primary data collection, many variables, there you find very high. There, for issues related to primary data, it is very difficult. Don't need to put पहला पार्ट में ये क्लियर हो गया कि जब आप दोनों आर स्क्वायर बढ़ेगा और आर स्क्वायर बढ़ेगा, आर बार स्क्वायर निकालना चाहिए और इसको इंटरप्रेट नेगेटिव है तो नेगेटिव होता the impact of per capita and और ये दिखाता हम क्या कहते हैं but कब आए कब क्या कहते हैं but और भी हमारे लॉजिक को कब करेंगे and highly significant बाय की इशू जाएंगे। अब एक और इशू है जो बहुत ध्यान देना चाहिए डेवलपमेंट by 150, but child mortality is 5.05. और इसका कोएफिशिएंट बहुत अधिक है और this coefficient cannot be compared because the unit of measurement of these two variables is measured in terms of routine and measured in terms of distance. So sometimes we can convert this regression into standard regression model, standardized regression. How to do this standardization? Standardization है कि वो normal तरीका है हमारा standardization, यानी convert your y variable into standard y. That's it. So, if the units are different or some values are in very less number or some are in very high, it is better to convert y into standard y. Or standard y कहते हैं means make this particular y such that the mean of that new y is equal to 0 and standard deviation is equal to 1. The normal distribution में z की क्या characteristic है? The distribution of z is such that their mean is equal to 0 and standard deviation is equal to 1. तो standardization कैसे करेंगे? y minus y bar divide by standard deviation. एक्चुअल y है आपके पास, उसका मीन निकाल लीजिए, उसका स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन निकाल लीजिए और इस डिफरेंस से निकालकर एक नया y बना लीजिए जिसको हम स्टैंडर्ड y कह रहे हैं। आप चाहें तो इसके ऊपर स्टार्ट लगा दें एंड सिमिलरली कन्वर्ट योर x टू स्टैंडर्ड x and then get y standard standardized on standardized with more source. Bypass my deviation मतलब हमने स्टैंडर्डाइज कर लिया कि ये भी मीन क्या हो रहा है जीरो हो रहा है zero. So there will be no intercept if you are regressing on deviation value or standardized. This is standardized value. Even if you regress all y on small x, x2 and small x3, there will be no intercept. Here is the difference. Now the value is 0.2023. Increase your per capita gain, standard per capita GNP by 1 unit, you will be able to reduce your child mortality rate by 0.20. Earlier the value was very low, now it is good. Similarly here, ये value बहुत ज़्यादा थी, that percentage आपने now you are converted into standardized. So sometimes when you find that the different values have different units, this standardized is unit free. Why is it unit free? Because the same unit divided by same unit. So the unit is cancelled out with their pure number. And because of the pure number, now it is easy to compare or communicate that the greater impact compared to this one. So, any point? Yes. Standardized child mortality rate. Child standardized mortality rate means you are converting them into a new variable where it is the mean is equal to zero. Competitive. So what they do, they convert into standard value. By 1 unit or 2 unit. Okay. Any other? Yes. dependent variable. If your dependent variable changes, the value of R square will change, because R square explains the variation in the dependent variable. So whether you change this or not, that will not. So there are three things which is important for R square: size of the sample, number of externality variable, and third is the value of the dependent variable. Now, if your dependent variable you are converting into log value, standardized value, R square may change. R square may change. Even though the size of the sample is same, number of independent variable is same, but you are changing this from the simple value to log value or simple value to percentage value, there is a possibility that R square will change. Okay? Any other point? Here, this one, if you increase GSP by 1 rupee, your child mortality rate, it is in percentage rate, will decline by 0.0053. Percentage is the unit of it. If it is absolute number, then it will decrease by 1 absolute. What is the value of 5? That all will be the unit of this. Yeah? But here it will be not rupee. Here it is percentage, it is also percentage. You can say 1% increase in female literacy rate will reduce by percentage. काम से चलो ठीक है फोटो छपे So those who want to really use econometrics, they should not bother about the formula estimation all. They should bother about the interpretation of the result. And for interpretations, take different examples, sold examples of Damodar Gujarati and see how they have interpreted the result. And in that, the other book, the Econometrics by Example, Damodar Gujarati has covered the real data across different countries. So it is not hypothetical data, so you will find the real insight into the interpretation of the problem. Any other? And those who want to learn econometrics for teaching, for them, GMK Madnani, Introduction to Econometrics by GMK Madnani is a very simple book. Those who want to write for the examination, for them, it is a very simple and to the point interpretation of econometric laws. Hello. Chai pila. Hello. 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 there are many persons doing MSc Physics, MSc Mathematics, and working throughout their life in financial economics or financial or share market. The reason is they are well versed with the software, computer, computations, so easy to apply the econometric tools when you have a huge data. I also did some work on this type of financial relations. What is the relationship between the change in the prices of gold on changes in price of the silver? If आज अगर गोल्ड की प्राइस चेंज होती तो कितने दिन बाद सिल्वर की प्राइस चेंज होगी, या आज एक पर्टिकुलर कंपनी का शेयर सॉफ्टवेयर चेंज हो रहा है तो कितने दिन बाद उसका इम्पैक्ट दूसरे शेयर पे आएगा, ऐसे इंटर रिलेशन। और उसके लिए हमारे पास है डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड लेग मॉडल, उसकी बेसिस पे यू कैन वर्क आउट कि कितने दिन बाद इसका इम्पैक्ट आएगा। तो if you have a tool and you have a data, you can do lot of modeling, lot of this thing. But there are other ways of also doing the research without using much sophisticated techniques or estimation tools. By simple statistical inference, you can do lot of exercise in social sciences or in economics. At Indore, the state government sanctioned one chair in our department, State Planning Commission chair. And the aim of that part that the Department of Economics should do some research on the policy developed by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is doing this particular, do the evaluation whether that is giving the result or not. So we did some work on the water conservation also. We did some work on solid waste management, and that was appreciated by the Planning Commission, State Planning Commission. So the task was given by the Planning Commission and we were doing that part. Then lastly, they said that the Niti Aayog has forced all the states to prepare a report on 17 sustainable development goals. So what is the position of the Madhya Pradesh on 17 sustainable development goals, and what time the particular state will be able to achieve the target of sustainable development goals by 2030 or 2028 and so on. So we did that part on 17 parameters and predicted that for this, the state will take this much time for, and we use econometrics in order to predict that part. Then one day, one collector came to our department and he said, Dr. Sahab, give us some formula for the allocation of funds to different panchayats. In district, there are many panchayats, gram panchayats, and we don't know what is the mechanism of distributing the fund. So some sarpanch are very aggressive, they get more funds. Some sarpanch are not very aggressive, they get less fund. And as a result, there is a huge disparities among the panchayats of the district. And the policy aim is to bring the equality, reduce the inequality among the panchayats. Okay, we can develop the formula. So provide this much of information about the gram panchayats. The collector was not able to give the information about the gram panchayat because they don't have the database. In all states, almost every state, the database or the collection mechanism of data is in a very poor shape. In a very poor shape. They don't have enough data to do the rigorous exercise of state level planning. And most of the time, the state level planning is incremental planning, or the planning forced by the central government. If central government is giving this much of fund for Manrega, adopt Manrega, because we have to take more fund from there. But really need based on the bottom of planning is missing. So that district collector was not able to give, and we discussed that in the forum of the planning commission, state planning commission. So the vice president, the minister for state planning, he said, Dr. Forget about the district, prepare the formula for state. Even we don't have any mechanism by which we can distribute the fund to different districts. So at least we can develop a formula for the state as a whole, and if that is workable, then we will extend it to the panchayat level and so on. So on the basis of their requirement, we did this particular work, evolving deprivation-based fund devolution method. They have the fund, and we have to distribute to the district fund. Earlier in economics, Gadgil formula was there for the allocation of funds from planning to the different. In Finance Commission, again, we have a different mechanism of distribution of funds from the central to the state. So the formula, development of the formula is very important. What is the basis of creating the devolution of funds? So we did this particular task on the request of the State Planning Commission. And it was a very interesting exercise. When we developed this formula, we interacted with the minister, we interacted with the policy makers, we interacted with the district administration and all so on. And then finally we developed this formula. And then State Planning Commission asked us to give this presentation at different divisions so that they can use this technique for development of their district planning. What should be the priority area of the district and where the district administrator should ask for the fund. So this is why I am sharing this with, and my intention is that if someone should try to develop such type of formula for Haryana also. So this is a study related to Madhya Pradesh, and basically it was done on the request of the State Planning Commission. And what is the issue? Issue before the State Planning Commission is we want a balanced approach of development, or you can say inclusive approach of development. Economic development without social development can lead to structural unemployment and crimes. There must be a balance between economic development and social development. Very good example of Kerala. Social development very high, but economic development is low. As a result, lot of social tension, stress, suicidal death, and so on. Haryana, the state where you are, Gujarat, Punjab, they are the state where economic development is very high, but social development is low. Number of female is lowest in Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat. Lack of social development. And because of that, huge social problems. मुझे नहीं पता, पर ये कहा जाता है कि जो बड़े बड़े साधु बाबा है, all they are coming either from Haryana, Gujarat और पंजाब. राम रहीम और कौन कौन से नाम है? रामपाल, बाबा रामदेव. अच्छा, आशा राम जी गुजरात से. तो all, what is my that aim of economic development should bring parity between economic development and social development. And if there is no parity, it will create lot of destruction in the society. Social development without economic development can lead to social unrest and frustration. Economic development हो रहा है, without social development, lot of frustration. और इसीलिए opposition is criticizing the Gujarat model of economic development. भले आपने economic development कर लिया, but at the cost of social development. Economic development without proper infrastructure development can lead to unsustainable development. Economic development तो कर लिया, पर infrastructure development नहीं हुआ, तो sustain नहीं होगा, कभी भी जाके collapse हो जाएगा. जो इंडिया की कंडीशन है कि एकदम हमने अपने ग्रोथ रेट को तो बढ़ा दिया, but we are not able to create that level of infrastructure. As a result, our economy is not competitive to the rest of the world. दालों की कमी हो गई थी 2 साल पहले, पोर्ट पे दाल आ गई थी और उनको डीलोड करने में इतना टाइम लगा, तब तक प्राइसेस कोलैप्स हो गए थे. Huge agricultural production, we don't have enough infrastructure to export. Coal problem, again, we don't have enough infrastructure so that we can import coal or we can do our own mining. So we want proper infrastructure development along with the economic development, then only we will be able to maintain sustainable development. Infrastructure development without proper economic or social development can lead to uncompetitive and costly development process. Infrastructure खूब कर दिया, डेवलपमेंट नहीं हुआ तो कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन आपकी बढ़ जाएगी एंड यू विल नॉट बी कम्पिटिटिव इन the rest of the world. So the approach of economic development must be balanced need. It should be balanced for social development, it should be balanced for demographic development, and even it should be balanced for infrastructure development. Then only it can sustain for long. Now I'm coming to the Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh, we are lucky fastest growing state of the country. मेजर स्टेट बड़ा साइज में है और इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ पिछले 6 साल की इज वेरी हाई. वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग इन मध्य प्रदेश क्या ऑल ओवर इंडिया. समटाइम्स पंजाब, हरियाणा, दे आर लीडिंग. वेस्टर्न यूपी, दे आर लीडिंग द इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट और बाकी सब बीमारू स्टेट से. नाउ द सिनेरियो चेंज. जैसे क्रिकेट में एक बल्लेबाज बहुत तेज रहता है और दूसरा साइलेंट रहता है, तो ऐसे ही इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट में जो लीडिंग स्टेट्स हैं, नाउ दे आर साइलेंट एंड दोज हु आर पुअर स्टेट दे आर टेकिंग लीड इन द इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट. तो मध्य प्रदेश इज आल्सो वन ऑफ देम. Oh, sorry. So Madhya Pradesh is also one of them. For last 5 years continuously, they are getting Krishi Kraman Puruskar because of highest growth rate in agricultural production. और sometimes अगर आप अभी लेटेस्ट रिपोर्ट देखें तो मध्य प्रदेश इज नंबर 1 in the production of wheat, number 1 in the production of pulses, number 1 in the production of oilseeds and all spices. So taking huge lead. Sustain high growth rate for last 5 years. Ricardo says there is a limit to growth in the agriculture. You cannot lead the country on the basis of agriculture, but Madhya Pradesh is an example where continuously the growth, average agricultural growth rate is 16 plus. For last 6 years, 16 plus growth rate. And it is said that agro-led growth is normally treated as inclusive and pro-growth. अगर आपको पॉवर्टी हटानी है, इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ चाहिए, तो बाकी चीजें छोड़ दो, एग्रीकल्चर ग्रोथ शुरू हो जाएगी. गुड गवर्नेंस एंड मध्य प्रदेश इज ए गुड एग्जांपल ऑफ गुड गवर्नेंस एंड कंडूसिव इन्वायरमेंट फॉर ग्रोथ. कभी हड़ताल नहीं देखी होगी आपने, कभी दंगे नहीं देखे होंगे मध्य प्रदेश में. अभी आप केवल खरगोन का छोड़ दीजिएगा. Otherwise, Madhya Pradesh is a very peaceful state, means very conducive for economic growth and located at the heart of the country. So if you develop a proper infrastructure, it can be a wonderful warehouses for all companies. The cost of transportation from Madhya Pradesh to the rest of the country is lowest because Madhya Pradesh is located at the center of the country. Market is flooded with agro commodities. Every year farmers are fighting to sell sometimes soybean, sometimes onion, sometimes tomatoes, sometimes potatoes, all agricultural commodities flooded. इतना production है कि market was not able to absorb them. The recent agro, अगर 2 साल पहले आप देखें जब बीजेपी की सरकार के बाद कांग्रेस की सरकार आई, the reason was the agro unrest. फार्मर्स ने मंदसौर में बहुत बड़ा एजिटेशन किया था जिसमें 2 या 3 फार्मर्स मर भी गए थे. high growth in the agriculture, but unrest among the farmers. Difficult to understand. Something missing in the economic development. It seems that complete case of market failure. Therefore, if you understand, try to understand the agro conditions of the Madhya Pradesh, you will find it is all because of the market failure. Market is not able to absorb the agricultural production, 16% or 17% growth rate, and that has created a problem of unrest among the farmers. So you need to change the policy. Soybean is a very important crop of the Madhya Pradesh. And government declared the minimum support price for the different crop, including soybean. And there was a bumper crop of the soybean. Government was not able to procure because market price was less than the procurement price. And this was the condition for almost all crops. So government of Madhya Pradesh initiated a new model of procurement known as Bhavantar Yojana. भावांतर योजना क्या थी कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ मध्य प्रदेश ने एक प्राइस फिक्स कर ली, दिस इज द मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस फॉर सोयाबीन, फॉर एग्जांपल 3000, and if you are able to sell your crop at 27, sell it. Difference 300 will be paid by the government. Bhavantar Yojana. If there is any price less than the procurement price, the difference will be paid by the government. And government declares this Bhavantar scheme for onions. और इतना प्याज सरकार के उसमें आ गया कि गवर्नमेंट वाज नॉट एबल टू सेल, फेंकना पड़ा था। उसको हटाने के लिए फिर भावांतर योजना कि कम से कम सरकार को खरीदना नहीं पड़े, मार्केट खरीदे, मार्केट बेच ले, और जो किसानों को लॉस हो दैट विल बी compensated by the government. And when government introduced a scheme of Bhavantar Yojana for soybean, soybean industry was struggling for last 3 years, but because of the Bhavantar Yojana, they got revival. Reason? Because market equilibrium is at 3000, but they were getting soybean at 27, 300 is paid by the government to the farmer, but actual beneficiary is the soybean industry processor. तो उनको जो माल मिला वो 2700 का मिला और मार्केट में आउटपुट क्या है 3000 का, तो दे गेट दिस वन. So how to resolve that situation, that is a very tricky. So that's why we say that it is a complete condition of market failure in agriculture. Therefore, unbalanced growth is a disaster. We have to create a balanced growth, then only it is sustainable. Now, Madhya Pradesh, growth in Madhya Pradesh has not been balanced. अगर आप मध्य प्रदेश में there are 51 districts हैं, and if you take 10 or 12 districts, they are industrially developed. Otherwise, there are at least 50 districts without industry. Only handful districts have pace in development. Majority districts are underdeveloped or less developed. Jhabua, Indore, you cannot compare. Indore, Khargone, you cannot compare. Indore, Betul, you cannot compare. Even equal treatment among unequal leads to inequality in the development level. इसलिए ऐसे स्टेट में जहाँ इतनी disparity है, if we are following the policy of same for all, equal treatment among unequal leads to increase the inequalities. Therefore, government intervention is required in order to create balanced development. Regional and social imbalances in the growth. Therefore, we need government intervention. 3 components of development: what is required, economic development, social development, and infrastructure development. There is the need to have a balanced development approach between these 3 aspects of overall development in order to bring a sustainability. This requires proper government intervention for balanced development. और इसलिए जब मोदी जी कहते हैं लेस गवर्नेंस, लेस गवर्नमेंट, मोर गवर्नेंस, हम चाहते हैं मोर गवर्नमेंट एंड मोर गवर्नेंस. Government should not withdraw hand from economic development because we have huge inequalities, huge social and other issues of development, and for that market is not the proper place to intervene. There is a need for government, and government has to take aggressive role in the development process. Then only we can bring parity or sustainability. This requires proper government. इसलिए कम गवर्नमेंट हमें नहीं चाहिए, more government चाहिए. बेसिस ऑफ तो अब क्या फंड एलोकेशन का मेथड होना चाहिए. Proper allocation of funds among various regions needs to be catalyzed for balanced and sustainable development process. Target क्या होना चाहिए? Balance. Balance between what? Social, economic and infrastructure. और target क्या होना चाहिए? Sustainability. Then only you will be able to sustain. Otherwise, this high growth rate will collapse within few years. It should based on deprivation level and development needs. तो दो बातों पे हमने ध्यान रखा कि व्हाट इज द डिग्री ऑफ डिप्राइवेशन एंड व्हाट इज द डेवलपमेंट नीड ऑफ द एरिया. These two things should be taken care. The deprivation level reflects the gap in economic, social and infrastructure development. कि हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का डिप्राइवेशन लेवल कितना होगा? What is the gap between the economic, social and infrastructure development looking to the average of the district. The sustainable development needs a balanced approach between economic, social and infrastructure development. The objective of this report to develop an index of economic, socio-demographic and infrastructure development for Madhya Pradesh at district level. अलग अलग सोशल डेवलपमेंट का इंडेक्स क्रिएट करें, इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट का इंडेक्स क्रिएट करें और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट का इंडेक्स क्रिएट करें. To study the association of various indicators of economic, social, demographic and infrastructure development in the state. What is the association with the economic development, whether it has a strong relationship with the state or not. And to develop a fund devolution index और ultimately उस basis पे हम fund devolution index create करें. Now methodology. Development is the outcome of many variables, not a single variable which can measure. We initially have identified 20 variables on the basis of availability of data at district level for overall development. The study is based on secondary data, so we are restricted by what? What is the availability of data at district level? And on the basis of availability of data, we selected how many? 20 variables for different districts. We then identify on the basis of correlation, we identify that 15 variables are more important for us क्योंकि कई सारे variables अगर आप इकट्ठे कर लेंगे तो उनका impact sharp नहीं रहेगा, nullify हो जाएगा. So we reduce the 20 variables into 15. Out of these 20 variables, on the basis of their correlation with per capita income, ultimately economic development के साथ क्या relation है? To capture the variables of economic, social and demographic and infrastructure development in the region. कौन-कौन से variables लिए हैं? उनकी list है. Socio-demographic index, infant mortality, population density, sex ratio, literacy rate, literacy difference, population under poverty line. These are the 6 variables we have selected under socio-demographic index. Infant mortality rate, and all are relative terms, not the absolute one, because we are converting into rate or ratio. Literacy rate, literacy difference, and population under BPL. A code hai, and this is the correlation with the per capita income. Last one is the correlation with the per capita income. Infant mortality rate has a high negative correlation with the per capita income. The more the per capita income, less is the infant mortality rate. Population density, very high correlation. More the population density, more is the per capita income, because all districts are growing fast where the density of population is very high. Or you can say population is migrating towards that district which is growing very fast. Sex ratio has a very poor correlation. there is not much difference in the sex ratio. It is not has a strong correlation. Literacy rate has a very strong and positive correlation with the per capita income. Similarly, the literacy difference is very important. Literacy difference between the male and female literacy rate and the per capita income, and population below poverty line. Again, this is very important. So these are the variables we have selected for socio-demographic index. Now for economic index, what are the variables we have selected? It is not only the per capita income which reflects the economic variable, population involved in non-agricultural activities. First indication that you are economically well off decided by how much percentage of population is working in non-agricultural activities. Household with tap water facilities. Again, this is a very good indicator for economic development. Household with toilet facilities. Per capita income, industrial units per 100 square kilometer, electricity consumption per capita, and credit deposit ratio. These are the variables we have selected for economic development. There are many other variables, but because of the availability of data, we have restricted to this point. And the correlation is given. Population involved in non-agricultural activities, a very high correlation, 0.8. Cross-section study है 51 districts in Madhya Pradesh. Household, strong correlation. Toilet facility, strong correlation. Industrial unit, again, electricity consumption, credit deposit ratio has a very low correlation with the per capita income. ये लास्ट में वो जो छोटा सा टेबल आ रहा है वो रिमूव हो जाएगा या इसको यहाँ इस कोने में ले जाओ और रिमूव हो जाए तो भी अच्छा बस Now we are coming to the infrastructure development. Number of school per 1,000 population, number of primary health centers per lakh population, electrified villages percentage, net irrigated area percentage, number of pump sets per 1,000 hectares, electrified village percentage, commercial bank availability of banking facility per lakh population, all and their correlations are given. Number of school has a very poor correlation because now it is a uniform policy and this spread is almost same. Number of public health centers, this is also government policies and all is equally distributed. Electrified village, very strong correlation. Net irrigated area, very strong correlation. Number of pumps, still positive. Electrified village, again it is a policy variable and the percentage. Electrification is not the criteria of consumption of electricity. Whether it is available or not, that is important. And the commercial bank has a very strong correlation with the per capita income. So these are the three categories of variables we have selected for economic development, socio-demographic variable, and then infrastructure index. So finally, this is the list of the indicators under different categories: socio-demographic, economic development, and infrastructure development. And all they are indexed. They are in the relative term, not in index. They are either in the percentage or ratio terms. But we cannot aid this one. We cannot aid literacy difference with the population density. We cannot aid literacy all. In order to make it additive, we have to convert into index. So relative terms, we have to convert into index in order to have a composite index. Okay. So we have used this particular formula for converting relative value into index value. And this is the formula which is used in the HDI, Human Development Index. Xi is the value of that particular district minus minimum Xi. Means minimum value of within the districts divided by maximum value of X minus minimum value of X. HDI में यही लिया है और इसको हमने अकोमोडेट एडजस्ट किया है कि अगर कोई पर्टिकुलर वेरिएबल लेस और बेटर होता है तो उसका रेशियो को हमने रिवर्स किया। वेयर xi is the variable of the x for ith district, minimum xi is the minimum value of the variable and maximum xi is the maximum value in the state. So what we did, we converted each ratio variable or percentage variable into index. इंडेक्स बनाने का फायदा क्या होगा कि इनकी यूनिट खत्म हो गई। और सब जैसे हमने स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन किया ना रिग्रेशन में, दिस इज नथिंग बट कन्वर्टिंग वेरिएबल इनटू स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड फॉर्म। नॉर्मल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का यूज नहीं किया, बल्कि इस टेक्निक से किया है कि व्हाट इज द रिलेटिविटी बिटवीन द हाईएस्ट वैल्यू एंड द लोएस्ट वैल्यू। तो then we work out the social development index. SDI is equal to the index of PDI, population density, literacy rate, literacy difference, infant mortality rate, and population below poverty line. Since we are adding 5 indicators, so we are dividing by 5. So this gives you the index of social development for every district. Similarly, the index of economic development and similarly the index of infrastructure development, and we work out the average. The only limitation here is that we are taking simple average, not the weighted average. We don't want to go for more sophistication. We want to just give indication to which are the districts you are ignoring for fund allocation and which are the districts where you have to give more focus on that. So we have not done the more rigorous exercise, but someone can try, and if someone try, then you can give different weightage to the different literacy difference or PDI. That all depends on your logic and all. Economic development, infrastructure, all these three, we have worked out the average. So this is our composite index of development, CIOD. Composite index of development means SDI plus economic plus infrastructure index divided by 3. So this is, you can say, composite index of development, and this development includes social development, economic development, and infrastructure development. So, but our aim was not the development, our aim was the deprivation. If any particular district is away from 1, because maximum value of that index can be 1. So if any particular district is away from 1, it will be treated as deprivation. So 1 minus composite index of development is the deprivation level of that particular district. So we have worked out the deprivation. हर state डिप्राइवेशन यानी ऑप्टिमम वैल्यू 1 से कितना डिविएट है, जो 1 से जितना ज्यादा डिविएट है वो उतना ज्यादा डिप्राइव्ड है। ओके, अब फिर डिवोल्यूशन इंडेक्स के बनाने के लिए अब हमने इस पर्टिकुलर जो इश्यू को डिस्कस किया पॉलिसी मेकर के साथ, अथॉरिटीज के साथ, कि भाई केवल डिप्राइवेशन को बेसिस नहीं बना सकते हैं, डेवलपमेंट नीड्स को भी बेसिस बनाना पड़ेगा। पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा है एनी पर्टिकुलर डिस्ट्रिक्ट की और उसका डिप्राइवेशन लेवल कम है, तो यू विल नॉट एलोकेट द फंड। तो पॉपुलेशन अल्टीमेटली यू आर सर्विंग टू द पॉपुलेशन, so you have to take care of population. sigma plus x bar plus minus 0.5 standard deviation, then that will be less developed district, और दोनों के बीच में है तो moderate district आएंगे. And on the basis of that, I have created a rank. So composite index, then the rank as per the composite index, rank as per the social development index, rank as per the economic development index, and rank as per the infrastructure development index. And since I belongs to Indore और इंदौर यूनिवर्सिटी ने ये काम किया है, इसलिए इंदौर is number 1 in all. भोपाल is number 2 in all. कैपिटल है तो उनको ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा ना. थर्ड जबलपुर in third, देखिए जबलपुर is third in overall composite index, but fourth in social development. यानी economic development is not transferred into social development. And infrastructure development, very low, 19th rank. Looking to the population, looking to the economic development, because Jabalpur geography is completely dominated by the central government organization. So economic development is very high, social development is low, and infrastructure development is worse. So there is a need to planning में Jabalpur district to demand more fund for what? Infrastructure development. Ujjain, composite development index 4th rank, social development 7th rank, means economic development is not transferred into social development. Or infrastructure development is very good, 4th. And therefore overall rank is also good, 4th. What the reason? Infrastructure development is good, economic development is also good, but not. Because of the seniors, हर 10 साल में सीएस होता है तो गवर्नमेंट डाइवर्टेड ह्यूज फंड फॉर द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द उज्जैन to accommodate the CS problem issue. So infrastructure is number 1. Economic development is not transferred into social development because of the tribal population and all, they are not coming up. So Ujjain should focus on what part? Social development. Similarly, the Gwalior, Devas, Agra, Malwa, all. So these are all districts where we have compared what is the position of different districts and what is their social and which is the district where that particular district is lagging. A district is lagging. Sagar overall composite index is 26, social development far below 29, economic development is better hai 17, and overall infrastructure development is 24. Chhindwara, composite index 27. Chhindwara, where the ex-CM एंड सिमिलरली इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट का बेसिस ले लिया और इसकी बेसिस पे हमने डिवोल्यूशन इंडेक्स बनाया। अब इस डिवोल्यूशन इंडेक्स को जितना पैसा आपको बांटना है उससे मल्टीप्लाई कर लो तो उस पर्टिकुलर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का फंड आ जाएगा। तो हमने परसेंटेज निकाला है कि अगर 100 रुपये है तो छिंदवाड़ा विल गेट हाईएस्ट 2.6992, बालाघाट 2.6, और इस तरह से अगर आप देखेंगे तो उज्जैन विल गेट लेस, इंदौर भोपाल will get list 1.3%, Agar Malwa 1.3%, or Indore will get little more because of the high density of population 1.48%, और अगर 10 लाख रुपए है तो ये एलोकेशन हमने हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट का निकाल के दे दिया कि ये देना चाहिए। That analysis is on this part, अलग अलग डिस्ट्रिक्ट के फंड बता दिया व्हाट इज द परसेंटेज। This fund devaluation method is based only on the level of deprivation of the district, but also on the concentration population, ST population, forest area, while computing the share of fund allocating for each district. ये केवल deprivation पे नहीं है बल्कि इन चीजों पर भी फोकस है। अब हम जब उज्जैन में आए थे तो उज्जैन डिस्ट्रिक्ट के, उज्जैन इज ए डिवीजन, और उस उज्जैन डिवीजन में वी हैव 8 डिस्ट्रिक्ट, 7 डिस्ट्रिक्ट, उज्जैन, आगर मालवा, नीमच, रतलाम, मंदसौर, शाजापुर, देवान। उनकी जो बाकी सब कंपोनेंट ऑफ द डिस्ट्रिक्ट है उनकी क्या पोजीशन है उसको हमने एनालाइज किया। देखिए उज्जैन कंपोजिट इंडेक्स डेवलपमेंट ये है, सोशल डेवलपमेंट देवास far below in the social development, Agar Malwa 18 rank in the social development, Mandsaur 27, Neemuch 33. So social development required in that, और सोशल डेवलपमेंट के भी जो 5 इंडिकेटर है उसमें हाईलाइट किया और ये बताने की कोशिश की है कि प्लानिंग फॉर पर्टिकुलर डिस्ट्रिक्ट शुड फोकस ऑन दीज गैप, एजुकेशन में है या फीमेल लिटरेसी में है या डिफरेंस इन द लिटरेसी है, दैट वी हैव फोकस। ये स्केटर डायग्राम बनाया इसी के लिए, ये देखें। So this is the way one can analyze or use composite index method when you have different variables in order to achieve certain target. Even the Rajan showed me in the paper where he worked with composite index, where he had worked for agricultural development. So there are different ways of using composite index for different criteria. Now comment any issues related to this? No issue. तो इस तरह के कुछ सारी चीजों में, now we did this at a district level. You can do it even at a gram panchayat level, or even you can do at a family level. If you have primary data and do the some indexing part and categorize the, जैसे आजकल मल्टी डायमेंशनल पॉवर्टी की बहुत चर्चा है, तो along with the poverty line, what is the association or what are the criteria for multi-dimension in terms of education, in terms of access, in terms of availability, and then you can create a composite index to reflect multi-dimensional poverty. So it's not necessary that you should use at macro level. Even you can use this indexing method at micro level or household survey level. नो इश्यू, नो, ये तो बहुत कंट्रोवर्सी वाला पेपर है यार, खूब डिस्कशन जब हमने डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे प्रेजेंट किया तो हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर अपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट को देख रहा था कि मैं 29 पे क्यों, मैं 23 पे क्यों, क्यों मेरी पोजीशन वहां नहीं आ रही है। या देखिए, सोशल डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स में हमने क्या क्या लिया, इन्फेंट मोर्टेलिटी रेट कोई डिस्प्यूट नहीं होना चाहिए, पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी कोई डिस्प्यूट नहीं होना चाहिए, सेक्स रेशियो, लिटरेसी रेट और लिटरेसी डिफरेंस एंड पॉपुलेशन बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन, they are all indicator of social and demographic development. Part of the demographic development is a part of the social development. So this is social demographic. Now this is economic development. Population involved in non-agricultural activities, indication whether the opportunities are available outside the agriculture or not. Household with tap water facilities. Household with the tap water means you have the tap water, but whether the household is able to use or not, that reflect the economic level of that. Household with toilet facilities. Per capita industrial units in the area, how much industrial units are there, electricity consumption, and credit deposit ratio. So all that belongs to the economic indicator. So I have pulled them into economic indicator. Now when we come to the infrastructure, availability of school education, infrastructure, बच्चों का enrollment कितना है, that is a individual, but availability of school is a infrastructure, availability of public health is a infrastructure, electrified household is a means access of agriculture, electricity, net irrigated area, reflection of availability of irrigation facilities, number of pumps, reflection of the availability of pump sets in the agriculture, electrified village, commercial banks, all these can be treated as an infrastructure. There may be many variables, but because of the availability of data, we have restricted to these variables. Density of roads is there, you can take it one, but the problem was that the density of rate, the per capita income के साथ the correlation was low, so we dropped it. Madhya Pradesh, the road density is very good. The reason is located in the center. कोई भी तमिलनाडु जाएगा तो मध्य प्रदेश होके जाएगा, दिल्ली से कोई कहीं भी जाएगा, तो without any effort the road densities in Madhya Pradesh is very good. That's why Madhya Pradesh is a good place for the logistic and warehousing. Anything else? Of course, yeah. Availability of data, discussion with the government, review literature कि भाई economic development के कौन कौन से indicator हो सकते हैं, so all. So why don't you think that the good economics is also good politics? It is not necessary that always good economics lead to bad politics. अगर आपने इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट प्रॉपर किया तो पॉलिटिक्स तो अपने आप आएगी. तो हर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी चाहती है कि कोई एक बैलेंस अप्रोच बने. So even politicians supported this type of idea that we should have some mechanism by which we can do this type of balancing. नहीं, ये तो देखिए, इन इंडिया our federal structure is such that the majority of resources are with the central and majority of liabilities are with the state. So there is a conflict between that. That's why we have a finance commission by which we dissolve the funds to the states on the basis of their need. So that's the reason. Earlier planning commission guardrail formula was completely for that. What is the need of the state? One should not say that since I am economically better off and I am giving more fund to the central pool, so I should get more fund from the central. The requirement is more important because of our federal structure. Definitely, definitely. Yeah. And Madhya Pradesh is not having enough fund because the per capita income is low, so he cannot do that part. Therefore, there is a need to improve the per capita income. For improvement of the per capita income, government need more funds. अभी देखिए जब कोविड काल में there was a pressure on the state government to give so much relief. Central said that I am restricted by my fiscal responsibility budget management act. I will not borrow much from the government market. But state can borrow more. यानी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट तो बोरो नहीं करेंगे और स्टेट कैन बोरो. मैं आपको अलाउ कर रहा हूँ. फिनांस मिनिस्टर सेड टू द स्टेट दैट यू कैन टेक मोर फंड. अब उसमें दो तरह के स्टेट्स हुए. कुछ तो होने का नहीं नहीं यार सेंटर ज्यादा बोरो नहीं कर रहा तो वाई वी शुड बोरो. और कुछ स्टेट्स ने कहा वाई टू बोदर, दे आर अलाउइंग अस बोरो. और अल्टीमेटली जिन्होंने ज्यादा बोरो किया उसको लास्ट में सेंटर एडजस्ट कर लेता है, फिनांस कमीशन में अकोमोडेट कर लेता है. तो ये तो जो एग्रेसिव होता है वो निकल आता है, जो एग्रेसिव नहीं होता वो रह जाता है. Any other issue? Even those who are not from economics, they can also develop this type of index, political development index, geographical development index, commercial development index of the different region, and link whether commercial development leads to economic development or not. Any question from online board है? नहीं है. In index method slides, what the minimum value and maximum value, how to make, how to take this minimum and maximum, is it simple values or another? Very good. Who asked this question? Poonam Rani has asked one question online that in index you have used the denominator as maximum and minimum. How to decide the maximum and minimum? So for particular variable, we have 51 districts, and within the 51 districts, you have to take what is the maximum value of that particular variable. For example, literacy rate. So what is the maximum value of literacy in the Madhya Pradesh district, and what is the minimum value of literacy of that particular in the district? So the denominator part for all districts will be the same for that particular variable, maximum minus minimum. So what is the difference? The district value will be the different for all. Otherwise, district minus minimum will be the same and denominator will be the same. So this way you can convert variable into index. Please show the last two slides. Slides कहाँ गए भैया? चलो ठीक है, इसको देख लेते हैं, अच्छे देना पड़ेगा। या I don't know which slide you are asking. You are asking about the division Ujjain level analysis or for overall Madhya Pradesh? Reaction, huh? Is there any reaction? नहीं, पढ़ के सुना दो वही है।